Hark! It's an 87th Precinct podcast bonus episode. This is the bonus episode for book number 50. 50? I keep saying that. It's amazing. The Last Dance by Ed McBain, an 87th Precinct tale about murder, funnily enough, and flipping plays and theatres again. So you will have heard us discuss it on the main episode, I'm sure, unless you only listen to these ones, which would be weird. Yeah. But we'll do our usual roundup of the book cover designs, tell you about the editions that we've got, and then get stuck into a little bit of contextual stuff from the space year 2000. 2000 AD.
That was always a year when you read those books as a kid that there was going to be tubes going up to the moon with big lifts in.
It seemed so far in the future, even when it was like 1 year in the future, it still seemed unimaginably far in the future.
Yes.
I mean, when Pulp sang Let's All Meet Up in the Year 2000 in 1994 or whatever it was, it seemed really far in the future.
Yeah.
It's like, so when you're reading those sci-fi books, we were probably written in the 80s, but you'd be reading them as a kid, say, in about 1988 or 89. It never occurred to me that you have to get a bloody move on with these things, aren't they?
I've not seen any construction work for these sky tubes.
You know, the only hover car I've seen is in Star Wars, and that's curiously made in the past about
the very
far past.
Yeah.
So it gets quite confusing when you think
What
about it.
year did the first 2000 AD comic come out?
Late 70s, wasn't it?
78-ish,
I think, something like that.
Same pedigree as me. It is always very strange of growing up with 2000 seeming like such a big shift, and then you get there and really it's not, much. Technology is amazing the way it changes and develops. But I think because everything became very household and domestic, like the internet, and it's the sort of advances in the stuff in your pocket rather than huge, like global changes, like a spaceport on every corner type thing, which the books and literature and films suggest is going to happen. Actually, all that happens is a cumulative effect of buying this electronics over and over again.
Everyone's got a copy of Encyclopedia Britannica in their pocket rather than can go to the moon in an hour and a half.
Oh, if only. Lovely moon holidays.
Not sure which is more useful or less useful.
Right.
Time will tell.
Well, yes, indeed. Covers of the books, then. I'm going to hold up the US hardback edition here, and Steve-O can describe that for the listening public.
Oh, it looks well. Crikey. Well, it says The Last Dance, Ed McBain, in profiled. It looks like stainless steel lettering, like somebody's made
like punched
Ed
steel.
McBain.
Yeah.
Not punched, maybe even just like actually then welded on or something on like a scratched stainless steel surface. And then a novel of the 87th is punched on, definitely. And The Last Dance is punched, but Ed McBain is in profile attached. And then behind it looks like a blurry street scene, maybe, is that?
Well,
music, theatre, maybe?
Yes, well, I'll just show it to Morgan so you can see it there.
Oh, I see.
You might notice that the picture on every single edition, it's the same stock photo of a street in Broadway, I think, or just off
It's difficult
Broadway.
to tell from mine because the writing's, but Morgan's is a bit clearer somehow. Yeah, so different, certainly.
Yeah, it does look it's sort of blue steel.
Oh,
as
yes.
it were.
Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, very blue steel.
And to be honest, we're not going to say much different to that because actually, other than the layout and colours thing, this stock photo that they've used is going to be on most of them, except for the US paperback, which Morgan will describe now.
Okay, so it's a cobbled street, slightly eerily lit as if by neon, on wet cobbles.
Suggesting Theatreland again,
suggesting
maybe?
Theatreland, absolutely. And then the silhouette of with a long shadow of someone walking through the night, perhaps to commit some nefarious act. Who knows?
Yes.
Probably going to use Rehypnol on someone,
I'd have
for
thought
all
so.
I know.
Yeah.
So, these will be all like that. And then the Italian one will be a man hanging on a radiator or something like that.
Well,
Very
we'll
literal.
see. We'll see. Yeah, so that's slightly different, that one. It's like these cobbles, yeah. The UK hardback edition, which is also what Morgan has in his hand as well, because that's what you've got, isn't it?
It is. I think mine's a book club one, so it's a bit mini compared to the
Yeah.
proper hardback, but still, yeah.
Is basically the same stock photo, but slightly more of it's revealed than on the front of the... it's the street in New York with the Music Box Theatre on it. And it's just people outside of that. It says The Last Dance, the new 87th Precinct novel, Ed McBain. Blue is the sort of overall colour theme for these things, blue and white. And then the paperback edition is what Steve-O and I both have. The Last Dance, new 87th Precinct novel, exactly the same thing, except for a little quote from Newsweek at the bottom of it. So to go on to the more interesting ones, I'm going to attempt to describe, whilst putting it down on the table, the Japanese paperback edition, which is a Hayakawa pocket mystery book, as we've been talking about in these recent ones. It's a
peanut.
It does look quite a lot like a peanut. It's like a big brown peanut with 87 scratched into it.
Or walnut.
A sort of red, pink and orange stripe in there, a black stripe as well. Sometimes we can get something figurative out of it, but I don't think I can on this one.
Can you rotate it to see if anything...
Ooh. Sorry, it got very exciting there. Skip to the next one. Sorry, Steve-O.
No. What could that be?
I'll share them as usual, but I love these Japanese ones. I
They are
really wish
cool.
they'd just put out all these ones again with the Japanese covers, because it's,
Yeah, it's like a walnut kind of shape, isn't it?
It will mean something. It'll have some purpose to it, because they are custom painted, aren't
Maybe
they?
that's a representation of Euston.
I've been there quite a lot. It does look like that.
Or the representation of the British High Commission. Maybe that's the moustache.
It could well be. It does look a bit moustache and
Yes,
bristly.
I'm struggling with that one a bit.
Yeah.
But it looks very visually striking nonetheless.
It does.
But the Italian edition,
Oh, here we go.
I'm afraid, is just that.
Oh,
no! Let us down.
It's not got a Giallo Mondadori style.
So it's a coloured version of this photo.
So yeah, it's the same stock photo but in colour.
I was sure we were going to see Andrew Hale
Hanging
from that peg or whatever it was.
That's very sad, really. Yes, it's very. It says the new crime novel of the 87th Precinct.
Ooh, go back to the.
What?
Maybe is that something to do with all the pizza?
Oh, right. Well, the Japanese one. Because the pizza spilled all over the place at the scene of the shooting. Could be.
Although pizzas aren't brown, are they?
Depends what you have on them.
I suppose.
But I've got a French edition, so the Princesse de la Cité edition, which is La Dernière Danse. Don't know why I said it in that stupid accent.
Let's have a look at that.
Okay.
Which is just a nighttime tower block
What's that red blob?
with some red on it. I think that just means blood.
A bit of
blood and that.
A bit of blood.
Yeah. So even our favourite Italian edition has gone very normal.
It's really sad reviewing these when you think back to how awesome they were.
Yeah.
Obviously the 50s and 60s ones, and then like the 70s ones were quite clever, weren't they? And like a bit wacky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they just
And we enjoyed the pan editions as well for all their baffling literalness.
Yeah. Like even the ones
Symbolic
which are
and
kind
literal
of,
at the same time.
even the ones that are actively bad are at least fun.
Yeah.
When did they go like really shit? Like in the
in the 90s, basically.
Yeah.
or maybe a
They're
bit
very normal.
before
That's
that.
what bothers me.
Well, they go to clearly zero effort and expense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
There's no craft to them, is there?
get the
I could come up with that in about an hour.
get the intern to do the cover of the new Ed McBain before they go on their lunch.
Yeah. Well, the reason I know it's a stock image and not something specially shot is because it says cover photographs, Tony Stone images. I looked up Tony Stone images. It's just now part of Getty Images. It's just a stock.
Somebody's
Thing.
just theatre, New York theatre search, and then got an image, and then paid Tony Stone his $300 or whatever, and then stuck it on a load of books.
Yeah, so it is a shame,
And The
really.
Italians stick it in paint, at least.
And given that the
Jazz it up
British
a bit.
paperback edition is in New English Library, and New English Library, when it first existed, before it became part of Hodder and they revived it, was proper pulp.
Yeah.
Nasty, nasty stuff. And so they should have been doing them in like old school style for anything with New English Library on the side of it, but nope.
Do we need to huff them?
Yeah, he's gone straight in.
Oh.
It's sampling different
creased
sections.
page 163.
Puffing so vigorously.
I've creased page 163 through 166.
His nose is so
Well, it's because
powerful.
I'm in
squashed
search. I'm in
3 pages
search
of
of
his
a.
book.
I'm in search of an odour. 1 out of 10 for odour.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
I don't know how a book that's 21 years old can smell so little. No,
Well, relatively speaking to the rest of the series,
very
everyone is
disappointing.
closer in time to us.
It smells as little as the same level of plausibility of the book.
Yeah, I think I'm on a 1 out of 10 on
I-
mine as well.
negligible
Let's see if
smell.
the hardback's any better.
Negligible
I'm not getting much.
plausibility. No.
Ah, dearie me.
Oh, well.
McBain's least odoured entry in the canon.
As some of the reviews said at the time,
Yeah.
one of the least pungent.
Yeah. The book both stinks and doesn't stink.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
It
there
doesn't
you go.
really stink,
It
I
doesn't
don't know.
stink,
I know we were a bit mean on the scoring, but
But as we've always said, a McBain 5 out of 10 is a lot better than many writers' 5 out of 10.
Very
You
true.
know.
it promised so much and then just goes very,
Unravels,
very,
doesn't it?
very
Yeah.
daft, doesn't it? Anyway,
Right.
we've already
Well,
covered
let's.
all that.
Like I say, this book came out on the. Well, like I said in the main episode, the book came out on the 12th of January 2000. So I've used that to test the charts, the top 10 singles charts of the UK and America. So as usual, I am going to run this down. So bear in mind, 12th of January 2000. We're only a couple of weeks after the Christmas holidays and the turn of the millennium.
Oh,
can think of
right.
a
I've
couple of
got
things that are gonna
one.
be in there.
Cliff Richard, Millennium Prayer.
It is not in the top 10.
What?
Is it one of these that rocketed right up to the top and then rocketed right out after all
It was
the
number
Richard
one,
fans?
wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, but by the 12th of January 2000, it was at number 12 in the UK
Oh.
charts.
I think all of his fans will have bought it the first week, won't they? And
Yeah.
then,
I think it was out over Christmas, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So, yeah.
Millennium by Will Smith.
Not on mine. Not in the top 10 at this point.
Rubbish.
Again, that might have done the same thing. I
Curses.
suspect it would have been somewhere in the top 20.
It'd
but
be somewhere in the vicinity, wouldn't it? But
I saw them looking at the album list before, but were Chumbawamba quite prominent in the year 2000?
was that era? My goodness, it's hub thumping.
Yeah, was that?
Well, probably I don't care for Chumbawamba, as I'm choosing to call them, because I don't think they've got the right vowels.
Is it in your list, is what I mean?
Nothing, no single at this point, anyway. I'll go up the list from 10 to 1 in the UK. So at number 10 is that hip young artist John Lennon with Imagine. I think it's still unfairly maligned. Every time it's played, people start going, no, Imagine, oh no, rock star saying this. Well, shut up. It's bloody John Lennon's Imagine. It's brilliant. At number 9, Steal My Sunshine by Len.
Oh, what a tune!
That's a bop, isn't it?
It sure is.
Number 8, a new entry from the Pet Shop Boys with You Only Tell Me You Love Me When You're Drunk.
I can't remember that one.
Yeah. At number 7, Barber's Adagio for Strings by William Orbit.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that existing.
So that was a very famous piece of classical music that people knew from, particularly from its use in film soundtracks. But William Orbit being an electro producer,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Yeah, it's somewhat better known than Orbit's Adagio for Strings by Barber.
Yes. By A. Barber. And just did it in the spare time between haircuts. 6, Back in My Life by Alice DJ. No.
I don't think so.
Number 5, Kiss, brackets, When the Sun Don't Shine by Venga Boys. How would you describe the Venga Boys to a youthful audience these days who might not know who they are?
Well, they had a bit of a revival, actually, didn't they? They're the soundtrack to the European sort of anti-fascist movement these days.
Oh, blimey, that's a
You learn something on these podcasts, don't you?
the Venga Bus is coming
Were they
to tear down these
Were they
institutions.
Dutch or?
They're some kind of Euro pop kind
I'm going
of
to say they're Dutch silly pop.
Dutch silly pop.
Very,
I don't know if
very,
they're Dutch,
very
but-
colourful.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
daft.
Very, very daft.
4 to the floor bass drum.
Yeah.
Lots of noises.
Yeah.
Funny synth noises.
Very
Funny synth
tongue-in-cheek.
noises. Yeah, big daft songs.
Yeah.
All
Very
good
summery.
fun. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Why are
Probably
we talking
never
about
charted
Venga
in the
Boys?
US.
I would be quite surprised if they'd.
Well, if I read out the US top 10 and it's all Venga Boys hit.
Yep. that would be good.
Anyway, yes. Number 4 was Say You'll Be Mine, Better the Devil You Know, double A side by Steps. Girl and boy group. Yeah.
Currently making a comeback.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the last Pete Waterman successes, I guess.
Yeah.
Hence the Kylie Minogue cover. That's one of those 2 songs.
Yeah. They mainly did covers.
They were reasonably harmless, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. Basically fine.
Made a career of Bee Gees covers, I suppose.
Yeah,
didn't
that
they,
was
really?
it. Yeah. Number 3, 2 in a Million, and You're My Number 1, another double A side by S Club 7.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah.
You're My Number 1. I think is that like a bit of a sort of Motown prestige.
You're my number 1. Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I think that was the significant hit out of those 2, wasn't it? S Club 7 were formed for... It wasn't out of a talent show thing, was it?
No,
it was formed for a TV series.
Yeah, like, kids kind of.
They were the Monkeys of the year 2000.
Very much so, yeah. And then there's a version going now which has 2 of them in, I think. Bradley and Tina, I think, and still talking about S Club 7 in spite of...
doing the student unions, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, number 2 in the UK was Rewind, The Crowd Say Bo Selector
Yeah.
by Artful Dodger featuring Craig David.
Yep.
And at number 1, this is such a wet bloody song list. Another double A side, in fact. I Have a Dream and Seasons in the Sun by Westlife.
Oh, God. Could you get 2 drippier covers?
I know.
Really, eh?
It's just, yeah.
Westlife had hit after hit after hit, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Didn't they break some records for like consecutive number
I
ones?
think
or
so,
something?
yeah. It was just...
One after another.
And just so formulaic as well.
Yeah, there were a series of very successful haircuts.
But they came, had all those, then just disappeared again, didn't they?
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think that they do some like some other boy bands. They do a combined Westlife and Boyzone kind of thing now, don't they? I think touring.
It's no muck busted.
No.
Right, let's go to America from 10 till 1. So number 10 in America is Bring It All to Me by Black, Blaque.
Ooh, no.
No. Number 9, I Need to Know by Mark Anthony. Presumably a modern person, not the person from Roman times.
Isn't he the bass player in Van Halen?
Michael Anthony, that would be good.
But at number 8, something topical to the time of release, Old Lang Syne by Kenny G.
Oh, nice. Smooth.
Yeah, so this is on its way down out of the charts. So I suspect that was
Christ.
quite a big hit. That was a big hit that would have been in America. I think we probably got off lightly with Millennium Prayer.
Maybe did, yeah.
Number 7, Hot Boys with a Z by Missy Misdemeanor Elliott featuring Nas, Eve and Q-Tip.
I don't remember that, but it sounds amazing.
I know,
actually.
it does sound quite good.
Yeah.
Number 6, My Love Is Your Love by Whitney Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Number 5, I Want to Love You
Whitney
Forever.
who? Sorry.
Whitney
Houston.
There we go. Yes, Whitney Houston train station.
Yep.
For trains to York, Edinburgh, and other places. Number 5, I Want to Love You Forever by Jessica Simpson.
I don't remember any of her hit songs, apart from the cover of These Boots Are Made for Walking.
Oh, right, yeah. At number 4, Savage Garden with I Knew I Loved You. There's 2 different noises there.
Australian, middle of the road.
Drippy nonsense. They're another... But I can only really remember, 2 songs, I think. They had quite a lot of really big hits, didn't they?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. If you were to say it, I would...
There's To the Moon and Back and
that's
Truly Madly Deeply.
To the Moon and Back in one of those tubes that Steve was talking about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Although with them, maybe just a one-way ticket.
Yeah. Oh no, another catastrophe. They've shot past the moon. At number 3, Back at One by Brian McKnight.
Brian McKnight. He sounds like on the cover of all those vinyls you search through in charity shops of stuff that nobody's ever going to buy,
It
ever.
sounds like you should be playing like fullback for some kind of second division football club
Yeah,
in 1976.
Brian McKnight, Carlisle United, left back.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
No, never heard
Do you know
of him.
what? If they're one of our listeners, sorry, Brian.
How are you spelling Brian with an I or a Y?
An I, classic Brian.
Brian McKnight.
Yeah, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I'm sure he's listening in. So, Smooth is at number 2 by Santana, featuring Rob Thomas.
Oh yeah, Matchbox 20 again. You see?
Oh,
Yeah,
there we go.
are.
And at number 1, What a Girl Wants by Christina Aguilera.
Oh yeah, lovely.
So very different charts
Yeah,
in America
absolutely.
and the UK. You know, ours is full of little teen appeal, sort of mixed
Yeah, kind
boy
of
bands and things.
Europop, a bit of UK garage,
Yeah.
which obviously didn't really do anything in the States. Yeah.
And yeah,
According to Wikipedia, McKnight is most recognised for his strong falsetto and belting range.
Oof.
oh blimey, we'll have to listen to that at some point. Right, so anyway, that was music, and we'll come to our particular choices of albums in a little bit. Films now of 2000. I've got the highest grossing films of 2000.
Oof.
I mean, you can have a guess if you want.
Was there a Bond out? No. No. What did I ever saw before that would have been high grossing? Gladiator.
Yes, definitely. Well, it's certainly films that people will know anyway, so I'm going to start from number 1 and work down this time.
Go
So
on
the
then.
highest grossing film was Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, I love the Mission Impossible films.
Mission Impossible 1 is very good. Mission Impossible 2 is one of the worst films of all time.
I can't remember
That-
which ones I've seen.
The plot of Mission Impossible 2 makes about as much sense as
The
The
Last
Last Dance by Ed McBain.
Yeah, I can't remember Mission Impossible 2. I mean, I think they sort of recovered from the misstep of a couple of them and then started making... It got good again.
Yeah.
I've heard
I
tell.
think that's... Maybe it's just me, but I'm sure that's like the worst one.
That might be the nadir of it. The fact that they're still making them now.
Doesn't have John Voight flying a helicopter down the Channel Tunnel, which the first one does.
Well,
Which is obviously...
essential for any film.
Yeah.
Well, really.
Number 2 was Gladiator.
Yeah.
Number 3 was Castaway.
Castaway.
Yeah.
It's the Tom Hanks one.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Still never seen
Right,
that.
no,
either.
I'll tell you where I was.
I think I
because,
know what you were thinking.
Because I was thinking that, I was about to say that Gladiator was Oliver Reed's last film, and then you said Castaway, and I thought, isn't that the film with Oliver Reed?
He's nude on an island.
With what's her name?
I can't remember.
Yeah, and he's nude on that island.
No, it's not that Castaway. This is the Tom Hanks one.
Tom Hanks knew that one.
Yeah.
Number 4 is What Women Want.
Oh, is that the Mel Gibson?
Yeah, that's Mel Gibbons. Number 5 is Disney's Dinosaur, which was a huge hit at the time, but I don't think has lasted in terms of their legacy.
I saw that on a list when I was trying to remember what came out, and I didn't remember it at all.
Yeah. Number 6, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Number 7, Meet the Parents. Number 8, The Perfect Storm. And number 9, the first X-Men movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't like the X-Men movies particularly.
No, the first one's all right. They get worse as they go along. I think.
I just don't like the way they're produced and directed. It's just, I don't know quite why, because I do like superhero films and things. But number 10 was What Lies Beneath. Yeah, so
fairly underwhelming.
yes, yeah. I mean,
Actually,
Gladiator, Castaway. Those are very big films, sort of big legacy films, aren't they? And
Yeah.
Mission Impossible 2, obviously part of a huge franchise now. I noted
I
down.
remember Gladiator coming out. That was like... There's not really been a big historical epic like that for a long, long, long time.
I've never seen it. You know.
Really.
I saw it a long time ago.
It's quite good.
Oh, sure,
You know,
yeah.
for like a big blockbuster like that, it's...
Yeah. Well, I think fantasy epics have basically taken over from historical epics, haven't they? You know, so what happens with... We get ultimately to Lord of the Rings, and that changes what people are making in terms of
Yeah.
historical air quotes type thing.
That's true. There's these things.
When
that go
was
in
the
cycles.
Lord of the Rings, first Lord of the Rings out?
2001, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Was there? Did I see that? Was there maybe the Dungeons and Dragons film in 2000?
Yes, which I have seen. It's a dreadful. It features Jeremy Irons with his hair combed exactly as it is in every film he's in.
Tremendous.
What, a film of the cartoon?
No, of the
Sadly
board
not.
game. or not the board game, the role playing game.
Oh, right.
So
Would have been fun if it had been a
Cartoon,
yeah.
Who do you cast for the that little
Dungeon
bloke
Master
who pops out from everywhere?
who do you cast as Venger with his one horn?
Oh, he was quite scary though, wasn't he?
Yeah. Anyway, look, we can't go back to the 80s and Dungeons and Dragons. There was a couple of those I mentioned, like Memento, good film.
Oh, that was very good.
That's
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Chopper, the remake of Bedazzled.
Oh, yeah.
I love the original Bedazzled. Battle Royale,
Tremendous.
good film.
Yeah.
Godzilla versus Megaguirus.
Haven't seen that one, I don't think.
No, me either. But
Sure, it's a corker though.
Billy Elliot.
Yes, as I said before, it was quite difficult to believe.
That must have been one of the highest grossing British films, but it certainly didn't seem to be in the, internationally.
Yeah, the lad who's in that, I still think if you'd asked me how old he is, I'd be like, he's about 25 by now.
Yeah.
He's probably 40, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's probably like the same age as us. Ridiculous.
Yeah, so anyway, there you go. That's the cinematic landscape. And again, we'll tell you our choices of film when we get around to that.
I've forgotten already. I genuinely have.
I've only got a couple of bits for TV because we're reaching the point. In the UK, we only had 4 channels for a very long time. Then we had 5 channels. But some people had some satellite. In the year 2000, it's still not super common that we had to have masses of channels in the home, was it really?
No, this is true.
So it is weird though, because when you look through the listing of the debuts, there is now loads, but you would have had to pay to have seen a lot of these things on whatever service you had before we were all sort of multi-channel. So, I mean, in the UK, the things I've picked out from the year 2000 is the BBC adaptation of Gormenghast, which I'd like to see again. I think is pretty good, but it's very, very dark, and all the sort of copies you get on VHS or if you look at it online are just almost dark to the point of unwatchable.
Everyone was very excited about it at the time. I didn't know anything about it. I've still never read it, but
The Gormenghast book's great. But, so that happened. Rebus starts. So the adaptation of the Ian Rankin Rebus novels starts. The first season having John Hannah playing Rebus, which doesn't really work.
No, he doesn't come across in sufficiently loose canony.
Yeah.
As what's his face does.
Yeah, well, Ken Stott takes over later and is brilliant. And we know Ian Rankin is a McBain fan as well. He's met him and talked to him. And I would like to talk to Ian on this podcast at some point. I must try and do it. I've got a slight in. Our pal James Nocty, who I interviewed, knows him very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll notice in the 87th Precinct books there is a police plaza called Rankin Plaza, and I'm sure that's a nod to Ian Rankin being a successful crime writer.
cool.
But yeah, the Rebus adaptations start, which I think at the time Ian Rankin wasn't interested in TV adaptation, so he personally as an author was just totally hands off with that stuff. I think nowadays he's a bit more involved in those sorts of things. The Weakest Link starts.
Oh, God.
Starting that trend of quite nasty game shows.
Is it still going?
Don't know, it's probably gone away and come back again, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's been on for a while, but it was a mainstay for a good many years, wasn't it?
Yeah, rubbish. A lot of rubbish.
Yeah. What was wrong with 15 to 1? That's what I said.
Yeah, that was probably canned in about the year 2000, I bet.
Yeah.
William G. Stewart's life went down the tubes.
But also there was the remake, or rather the new version of Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, starring Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer, who I've talked about on this podcast before. Bob Mortimer's just put his autobiography out, in which he talks about how much they hated making it and how much they felt like they were bad actors, and so basically everyone involved with this remake of this fantastic 60s show has disowned it, essentially. But I love it. I loved it at the time, and I love it now.
I must admit, I've not seen it for a long, long time, but I don't think I've got any strong memories of it either way, really.
Yeah, it's great with two of my favourite comedians in it. Yeah, they can't really act, but that's not what you watch Vic and Bob for.
No.
Quite.
And in terms of American TV, the things I've noted down are CSI starts, which obviously turns into a huge CSI everywhere type thing. CSI Des Moines. Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, yeah.
Which came over here and then was like Or what's on TV while you're eating your tea? Oh, it's Malcolm in the Middle again. And Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like that was that long ago either.
Yeah, so those are just noted down those ones there, really. So, yeah, there's just almost too much to choose from. So there's a little selection of TV things there. So let's get on to our own picks, shall we? I will come to Morgan first. What have you brought us in terms of a film and of an album from the year 2000?
Okay, film-wise, it did seem like fairly... It wasn't the most exciting year, but there were a few things that stood out when I was looking over the lists. I think I'm going to pick Cecil B. Demented.
Oh, right.
The John Waters movie, which I haven't seen for years, actually, but I think we saw it in the cinema when it came out.
Sorry, I've taken my glasses off there. Are you looking at me?
Yeah, did
I've definitely seen John Waters films at the cinema.
Yeah, I think
the
it was
the person I'm most likely to have ever gone with would be you.
I think it was. I saw it with. It did not particularly well regarded by critics, but I thought it was great.
What's it about?
It stars Melanie Griffith as a Hollywood A-lister who is kidnapped by some cinematic terrorists, and hijinks ensue.
That's so very John Waters.
It's very John Waters. It's less restrained than I think a lot of his films sort of leading up to that had been. It's a lot more in the vein of his kind of like nastier 70s work, really. Which I think is probably why critics didn't like it. It's like, oh, this is a complete shambles, but it's great.
Well, that's what a lot of people like for the John Waters stuff.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
All right, cool.
Great fun, well worth a look. And actually like a really good cast, I think, too, from what I recall. Yeah, just people who obviously having a really great time doing something totally different to what they'd normally do.
Yeah,
so.
I can imagine it's very appealing as a sort of alternative for someone like Melanie Griffiths, something like that, to do something quite freeing.
Yeah, I think so.
And so then what do you bring us for an album?
Album-wise,
He said, suspecting you might have picked the same thing as me, but who knows?
Oh, well, who knows? Album-wise, I decided I was going to... I'm quite glad you picked me first, because you never know. I can always... I avoid tripping over anyone else, because I get to go first. I went for Furnace Room Lullaby by Nico Case and her boyfriends.
Well, no, I didn't choose that one. There we
go.
That's
good stuff.
So what's that all about, then?
I was alerted to this by our good friend Lou Hanman, who I think heard her on the John Peel show, as was a thing in those days. Nico Case, who started out as a drummer in a bunch of sort of assorted like Canadian punk and indie rock kind of bands, and then in the midst of that started a solo career as a country singer.
Yes.
So just really great, kind of classic sounding, but also a little bit modern, kind of like, I think I've heard it described as country noir. So like slightly kind of cinematic, kind of eerie atmosphere to some of it as well. But just, loads of great throwbacks to kind of like the classic era of pre-Garth Brooks kind of country. It's great. She's
got a great voice, Nico Case.
Yeah, tremendous voice. And then she's obviously gone on to like less kind of specifically country, more kind of wide-ranging Americana kind of stuff, which is still fantastic to this day.
Yes, you mentioned our old pal Louise Hanman there, who we obviously lived with for a while and were in bands with. So we were in a band called 3 Minute Margin where she was the drummer, and then you, briefly me, were in a band called Flamingo 50 where you were the drummer and she was the front person, and Louise has just started a new band now, hasn't she, after years of other successful bands?
Yeah.
She lives in America. What's it called, the new one?
All the way Lou. It's actually, I think the record is just a solo project. I think she plays everything on it, but I think there's a
talented swine.
I know, but then there is going to be a touring version. I'm not sure who's going to be in that yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
So this is a call out to all our American listeners: is if you see All the Way Lou touring near you, go and see her and go up to her and go, I listened to a podcast about a specific series of police procedural books done by 2 people you used to live with.
Yes, please do that.
That would be good, because I can't imagine how much she would dislike that.
I think we should guess the people who were doing the podcast.
Well, I'm sure I don't know. She's probably far and away the most successful out of all of us who did music at that time, isn't she? More or less, I'd have thought.
I would say so.
Yeah. Go on then, Steve-o. What's your pick for films and music in whatever order you choose?
All right, okay. Well, what shall I do? Music first. I must admit I'd forgotten to do this, so I had a bit of a look first. And so I went for The Software Slump by Grandaddy.
Right.
A much favoured band of mine that don't have very many albums, really, and you spend decades releasing one and now have pretty much packed up. But that was a slight breakthrough album for them, I seem to remember. So like electronic kind of indie kind of one bloke playing all the instruments just about. Even though they were a band, Jason Little kind of totally dominated them, really. So they were always a bit slightly peculiar, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, much to be recommended, I think.
Nice.
And then film-wise, so I think I'm going to give a great commendation to Best in Show.
Yay.
Which is a very, very, very silly and very, very funny film.
I'd completely
about
forgotten
the
about that.
world of dog contests.
Great choice.
Yep.
But I think not that maybe a better film, but I remember going to the cinema to see it, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I've not really ever seen a film quite like it. And it ushered in an era of Asian cinema kind of
On a world stage.
making big bucks at the cinema. Now, if you watch it dubbed, it's absolutely awful and practically unwatchable.
As is often the case.
It's certainly really effective on the big screen, like subtitles. That I do remember.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but it's had a massive lasting legacy. I mean, we're in the year where the Marvel have released Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which clearly owes a debt to it.
Absolutely.
Along
When
the line.
particularly when they go to the village, and all the fight sequences there are very much in that kind of classic sort of style, aren't they, with the wire work and everything?
Yeah. So it was visually great and like really windy. Lots of when you're out, lots of outdoors, lots of.
Yeah, I must watch
noise,
it sometime.
Yeah. So whether I've not seen it for quite some years now, so whether it now looks a bit dated would be quite interesting to see. But
I feel like it would probably stand up really well, because
The House of Flying Daggers was one that was done a few years after, which I have seen since and holds up well.
Yeah.
So I think I'll go with that. So either.
I think that's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, then, in that case, I will do my recommendations. And we've only slightly stepped on each other's toes, Steve-o, because my movie recommendation was going to be Best in Show.
Oh, right, okay, well.
Because, and if you're a fan of Spinal Tap, you'll know the sort of the Christopher Guest improvised mockumentary style, and I think I probably prefer it to Spinal Tap Best in Show.
Yeah, it's
I can rewatch
sweeter.
it more often, I think, because
the absolute funniest guy in that is, what's his name? Willard.
Fred Willard.
Oh my God,
amazing.
he is absolutely amazing in that film.
Yeah.
He is so.
Yeah, it is brilliant. There's the naming nuts sequence is worth the price of admission alone. I mean, you know what you're getting with those sorts of things, but the casts and people that he brings in are so good, and the techniques they use for making those films are so good that it's rarely been a misstep. Lorraine and I were discussing the film Mascots the other day, which I think was the one misstep, but it's sort of not very well known one.
Yeah,
and
I've not watched that.
Doesn't really work in such an effective way. But Best in Show is an absolute corker. Yeah. And so my music choice is, and this is what I thought you would choose, Morgan, is All Hands on the Bad One by Slater Kinney.
Yeah, it was on the list, but I thought, I'm quite glad I didn't then. That's good.
So, again, hugely influential on a bunch of us, particularly our friend Louise. But it is a phenomenal album. I go back to it time and time again.
Yeah.
All Hands on the Bad One. It's got 4 or 5 of the best songs they've ever written on it, as well as a couple of other storming album tracks.
Absolute corker. I think I saw him live like 3 times that year, possibly.
Yeah.
We definitely saw 2 gigs, and I think I saw them at Reading Festival as well.
We saw them in Manchester.
Yes.
We saw them in Leeds. in two venues that don't exist anymore.
Yes,
In fact,
that's right. The Roadhouse and the cockpit.
yeah. But and if you go and see Slater-Kinney these days, you're going to go and see them in huge venues.
Yeah, and they're a 7-piece.
Yeah, as opposed to the noisy 3-piece that they were in the basement in a little place in Manchester when we saw them that year. But yeah, it's just a phenomenal album from a phenomenal band.
Terrific.
At the peak of their powers at the time, I think.
Yeah. Nico Case, if you go and see it now, if you go and see her in Manchester, it'd be the Bridgewater Hall or whatever. And I think the year after this, maybe me and Lou went and saw her in the Night and Day Cafe, which is
it's about the size of the room we're in now.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, there we go. That's the year 2000 taken care of. We can now move forward into the shiny, futuristic 21st century as the next book, Money, 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 comes out in the year 2001 of 2001: A Space Odyssey fame, which suggests that we would have all been getting Pan Am shuttles up to space stations and things like that.
I know I was.
Yes, indeed. Briefly, but yes, otherwise that is us for this bonus episode. Thank you for indulging us while we get all fuzzy and nostalgic and silly about these things, but life's hard. We need an outlet, really, don't we? So anyway, I'm going to say au revoir. Steve-O's going to say
goodbye,
and Morgan will say
fairly well.